We received a notice from the attorney that there's been illegal activity on our computer. She was representing, of course, the recording industry. She said, you're guilty, Mr. Smith, of downloading songs illegally on your computer. And I said to the woman, I said, I've never downloaded songs. And she said, well, someone in your household must have. And I said, perhaps. I said, you have to understand my computer is our family computer. And on any given Friday or Saturday night, my child would have maybe dozens of friends over. And at that point, she said, well, we will send you a form, and you can implicate your child. I'm Don Smith. I'm a pastor and a ministry consultant from McKinney, Texas, in the Dallas, Texas area, and I have been sued for copyright infringement.
This world in which we pretend that we're not all copyright criminals is like the Victorians, who pretended that they didn't all masturbate, right? The official line was, if you masturbated, you get hair on your palms, you go blind, you go nuts, right? The official line today is that only bad people copy files without authorization. In both cases, it's not true. And I think that what's happening with copyright is the same thing that happened with masturbation, that people are starting to admit to each other, yeah, I do it too.
But at the same time the law made 52 million people copyright criminals, one lawyer was launching a movement to set them all free. His name is Lawrence Lessig. He's the guy who wrote the manifesto that inspired this film.
The one thing that's absolutely clear is that there's no way to kill this technology. We can only criminalize its use. We can't stop people from taking culture and remaking it in a way that expresses their ideas differently. We can only drive this creativity underground. We can't make our kids passive in the way we were growing up. We can only make them, quote, pirates. And the question we've got to ask is whether this is any good.
Lessig has been traveling the globe for over a decade, sounding the alarm on his own country's copyright policy.
You know, I'm not anti-American, so I'm not trying to rally people against America, but I am anti this particular version of American policy. I'm embarrassed by it because it is so extreme relative to our tradition, and it does harm when this kind of extremism is forced on developing nations. And I think it's particularly appropriate then to come to developing nations and to at least get them to recognize that there's another side to this story. So I felt like a lawyer with a guilty conscience, that, you know, somehow there had to be a balance to this. And if the mess was being created because lawyers were playing into the hands of these, you know, people who profited from this, then lawyers needed to be on the other side. So that's what really got me going.
I want to make a mashup film, basically. I want to take all my favorite mashups, my favorite movies on these subjects, stuff I find on the internet, and I want to cut this together in a way that really tells the story of the last 10 years of copyright. I'm wondering if maybe you can take a look at it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's totally illegal.
Will they take my house?
Do you have a house?
No.
Well, then don't worry.
Okay, I think good. This is the kind of advice I was looking for. But isn't there some fair use in here?
Yeah.
Or is it all fair use?
Well, in my view of what fair use ought to be, everything that you've shown me should be fair use.
Fair use is a part of copyright law that allows for free speech. I can use small amounts of copyrighted material to make an argument. I can still get sued, but now I have a defense.
I think that the way you should think about it is, imagine you were writing an essay, and in the course of the essay you would quote stuff from your culture, right? You'd quote passages from, some popular writer, or you'd have passages from Shakespeare, whatever, you just include it. And you'd use it to try to make your story, right? And what you do is you'd quote and you'd cite. That's what you do. You should have the same freedom with film as that writer has with that text. Nobody would doubt that the writer could do that with the text, but it's a federal case whether you're allowed to do that with film.
The coolest lawyer in the world just told me I'm making an illegal film. I don't really know what else to add to this sequence, but somebody should be able to do something with this.
And I think that what's happening with copyright is the same thing that happened with masturbation. That people are starting to admit to each other, yeah, I do it too.